but it's when if you're asked the question, what are your weaknesses, and you think and you struggle, and that's probably the biggest weakness of all. You struggle to identify them. So when you ask about reflections and what you could have done better, you have to think. If someone says, "What do you think you've done well?" It's a catalogue, I've done this and that. But when you think, sometimes I think, for me personally, you want to move things forward probably faster than they need to. And you don't spend enough time nurturing it and allowing it to mature and then moving on. You're always pushing for the next goal. You're always pushing for the next big thing. One thing this industry does, it unfortunately, it motivates people like me to do that, because the next big thing is just around the corner and you want to be part of it.
Are you ready to elevate your leadership skills in the electronics manufacturing industry? Join Sannah Vinding on a transformative journey as she unlocks the key to exceptional leadership in this dynamic field. Discover invaluable strategies, emerging trends, and best practices through expert perspectives and insightful interviews. This podcast is your ultimate resource for gaining a competitive edge, staying ahead of the curve, and shaping the future. Tune in now and unlock the secrets to leadership success in the world of electronics manufacturing.
Welcome to Mind Innovation Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Sannah Vinding. I want to introduce today's guest, Nigel Watts. He's a highly experienced and accomplished senior executive in the electronics and semiconductor industry. Nigel has held various roles in engineering, sales, marketing, and corporate management. He has successfully owned his own business for more than 25 years and is currently serving as the president of WPG EMEA. Welcome, Nigel. I'm so pleased to have you here as a guest today. I've been looking forward to our conversation.
Sannah, me too, and it's a nice way to end a Monday, actually. But I'm excited to be here and looking forward to the conversation.
Awesome. So let's start. I want to know more about you and also who's listening in. Tell me more about your passion around the electronics industry.
Well, that's quite an easy thing to talk about, because I've been in the industry now approaching 45 years. I joined it when I was 17, and it's kind of probably sounds a little bit childish, but I've never lost that passion and enthusiasm from the day I joined it. Obviously, my career has moved on in various different ways, and I've had many, many different roles. But all the time and all the way through it, I've had that hunger and that thirst to try different things, look at things a different way, challenge uniformity and challenge the norm. And that's what always brought me my passion for it, because I always look at things and think, well, there's another way of doing that, and never been scared about stepping over the line and trying it. So I think that's largely what brings the passion along. But the other side of it is the industry itself, because if you look at the last 45 years, what's changed the world more than the electronics industry? And if you look at the next 25 years, what's going to change the world more than the electronics industry? And it's a privilege to be part of it.
I agree. It's an interesting one, and there's so much happening. I always say it's a huge industry, and then sometimes it's all just a small world, because we all know each other. Sometimes
that's good, and sometimes not so. Depends who they are. But
correct. Let's talk about a little bit about disruption, because you're saying that can shake your business, or it can shake you as a person as well a little bit, right? How have you addressed it? Because we had the whole pandemic, right? Big disruption to the industry. So what's been good for you? What's been maybe not as good?
Well, picking on the pandemic in particular, as you just have, if you look at the world immediately before the pandemic and then look at it now, the fundamentals that have changed is the way people have behaved, the way people have interacted, the adoption of digital technology as a way of mass communication. I mean, what we're doing right now is now the norm. Video podcast, whether it be Zoom, whether it be Teams or another method. I probably used to have a Zoom call once a week, maybe twice. Then suddenly in the pandemic, it's 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Now it's receding a little bit, but there's still a much larger percentage of my day is on video than it was prior. And I'm sure many people, their worlds have adapted to a more digital type of experience.
Yeah.
Now, fundamentally speaking, being a sales guy, it's got advantages, but it's also got disadvantages. The relationships I had prior to the pandemic have been maintained through the digital media, but it's much harder to develop the initial relationships through digital media than it ever was before. So, you've got to find other ways of getting to the customer, in my case, or the supplier, in my case, and starting that process of building that relationship. And I don't think there's any substitute for a one-on-one. Now, one-on-one on a two-dimensional screen, okay, I'll accept it.
Yeah.
I'd much rather be sitting in front of someone in their office or in a venue having a tactile conversation. Yeah. Because that's the world I come from. Now, a guy that's sitting in front of you perhaps in 2 weeks' time who's 25 years old, post-grad, and has experienced digital technology since they were 10 would probably argue with that because that's what they're used to. Yeah. But my whole world has been personal interaction from the age of 17.
Yeah. So how do you encourage your own team to embrace this way?
And I'm serious. How many emails do we get a day? 100, 200?
Yeah.
Whenever possible, when I read an email, I find the excuse to pick up the phone immediately. And invariably, when I pick up the phone and talk to the person at the other end, the first thing they say is, I've just sent you an email.
Yeah.
My response to that is, I know, that's why I've called you.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, what you end up with is an email trail of almost binary, 2 to the power of 2, 4, 8, 16, 32 emails to answer a question, because the answer to the question begets the next question.
Yeah.
Whereas the phone call not only answers all the questions, but then you have a side conversation. You're talking to someone about, so where do you live? What do you do? How do you do it? It's all that sales process that you can't achieve either on a text or on an email.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's that extra dimensional level, right? That you actually, you're building on that relationship that you know each other. I also think that emails are efficient if you know each other, because then you can get faster, right? Because it's not, you can't be on a phone call with.
No, and they're also perfect as an audit trail.
Yeah.
So I have a conversation with you now, and what I then do, I then summarize that call in an email saying, "Hi, Sannah, great to talk to you. We agreed, right?" And then we've got a basis on which we progress.
Yeah.
That's a really good use of email, in my opinion, but it shouldn't replace this conversation to begin with, and it certainly shouldn't be the basis of a sales relationship.
No, but again, you still need to reach out to new sales prospect, right? So what kind of new habits or new changes have you put into your organization?
Well, I'm always asking my people, whenever possible, find the shortest route to personal contact that you can achieve. It has become more difficult. If you look at Europe in particular, we've got things like GDPR rules, which restricts how you can contact people and for what information you can use. So, and by the way, I'm not opposed to that, because unfortunately there are elements of the world that would like to use information in an incorrect fashion.
Yeah.
So I'm all for protecting people's civil liberties and rights and privacy, but at the same time, we've got a job to do, and we'll find a way of doing that job. So I use social media an extensive amount, both personally and through WPG in our own pages, and I'm positively surprised and positively delighted at the level of response we receive.
Yeah.
And I think that's something to do with how we go out to the world on social media. I don't like gimmicks. We like presenting facts, and we like, I think the secrets, without giving away too many, don't try it. Don't try and publish the Old or New Testament on LinkedIn. It won't work. It's got to be short. It's got to be sharp. It's got to be snappy, and it's got to invite a response.
Yeah.
And we get a response. Sorry, that's my Zoom going off. My ring going on in the background. But yeah, so I think you've got to get used to the technology that's at your disposal, and don't try and implement it in a way that you did 25 years ago.
Yeah.
You're dealing with modern technology, and you've got to use it in a modern way.
Yeah. No, that's agree. What about learning? Because again, pushing yourself, right, with a disruption, you need to do things in a different way. You need to learn it, or you need to test it. So how do you learn?
Well, I'm always on the acquisition of knowledge, that's for sure, because I'm a big believer in that there's no standing still. If you stand still, you get dragged backwards. I also don't want to be a dinosaur. I don't want to be that guy that people look at and thought, yeah, he used to be something, but it's past his sell-by date today. So the acquisition of knowledge for me is really important. The relevance of who I am and the organisation I represent is hugely important to me. So I want to, and again, a lot of my learning process is by talking to people.
Yeah.
How do you do it? How do they do it? And what's important to you? You know, I might come up with a fantastic idea for me, but is it relevant to anyone else? There's only one way I'm going to find out, and that's to ask somebody else. That whole learning process for me, whether it be through media or through talking to different people, is a significant part of my evolution process. I read some fairly interesting media. You know, people. I like people that are disruptive by nature. I mean, I remember reading the Steve Jobs biography by Isaac, and I was on 2 long-haul flights. It's an 800-page book, and I finished it by the end of 2 long-haul flights. It just captivated me. Yeah, it captivated me. I mean, you know, say whatever Steve Jobs was, he was disruptive.
Yeah,
and, you know, and when you see why he was disruptive, his background and whatever, it all makes sense. And there's lots of people like that in the world. I mean, Elon Musk, very disruptive.
Yeah.
But the world changes because of disruptive people. Whether you like them as characters or not, it's kind of irrelevant. It's their disruptive influence that changes things.
Yeah. Yeah. And nobody likes change, right? But it will happen. Yeah, people are resistant to it.
Yeah, people are resistant to change, but that doesn't make change wrong. No. It doesn't make them wrong either. No. Change will happen. I mean, it's the one constant. Okay, whether we like it or not, the world will be different in 10 years' time to what it is today. Those people that embrace it for the right reasons in the right way will probably be the greatest beneficiaries from it. Yeah,
agree. Yeah, the faster or the better you can actually change together, right? With that, what's going on, you will come out much stronger and much better, in a much better position after.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
You know, not all change has to be radical. Change can be gradual. You know, you've got evolution and revolution. Revolutions don't happen so often, and when they do happen, they're normally fairly messy affairs. Whereas evolution is a more considered, gradual process. So both are applicable in different situations.
Yeah. Let's go back to the younger generation. I want to, you know, get some advice from you. You know, what kind of impact do you see that the younger generation, you know, what's going on right now, and how do they change the future for the electronics industry?
Well, I mean, that for me is a really good question, because, you know, if I look at my element of in the semiconductor business, there's a dearth of young people.
Yeah,
there is a generation gap. I mean, I'm one of the oldest statesmen now in the industry, and the good news about that is that I can probably be employed for as long as I want to be, because I haven't got someone knocking on my door trying to push me out of the way.
Yeah,
but it's needed. We need succession. We need younger people to get excited about the hardware industry, the semiconductor business. Whereas most of the younger generation are kind of, they prefer the coding side, the software side of the business. But when I engage with younger people, what I find is a very excited, very thoughtful group of individuals. They're very considered in terms of what they're thinking about and what's important to them. I would say they're probably more measured than my generation, for whatever reason that is. And I think they've become, I think they're almost more serious in some respects about what they do and how they do it.
Yeah.
And I think we're, you know, I think that next generation to come is going to be very exciting. what they've got at their disposal in terms of information and resources is beyond imagination.
Yeah.
And that in itself has positives and negative implications. The positive is if they've got that frame of mind to access all of that, understand it and embrace it, wow, where could that take them? The other side of that, it can be all-consuming and a little bit bewildering. And where do you go with that? They can get lost with it. So there's a lot of pressures, and but there are lots of opportunities for them as well.
Yeah, but
I think it's incumbent upon us to give them that opportunity.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah, you need to, right? And then you just need to learn, and it's a journey from there. What about skill set? What kind of necessary skill set do you need if you hire somebody in or new talent coming in?
Well, in my business, communication skills are, just a must.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to. You've got to be able to move up through the communication chain at ease. Whether it be I don't like using the expression, but it doesn't matter if you're C-level or wherever you are. The person in front of you is the person you're engaging with, and you've got to be comfortable in your own skin in engaging with those individuals. Yes. Whether they be, and it's nothing to do with race, creed, culture, sex, or anything else. It's just about the person you're talking to at the time. So communication skills are fundamental. I like humanity. I like people that have a human side to them, that understand it's not just all about business, it's about people as well. And actually, we've all got business to achieve, but when you can get to a personal level and when you can build a relationship and understand someone as for who they are rather than the title on their business card, I think that's hugely important. So I want to see a human side to people, not just process. And I want people with empathy.
Yeah,
because without trying to sound too, I don't want to sound too churlish on this, but it's not just about the money and it's not just about the business transaction. Wouldn't it be great if we could all do this and be friends at the same time? It's not always possible, but I'd like to see it that way. So I like empathy as well. I also want people that just get on with what they do. They understand what the role is. They execute. They add value, and I want people to challenge me for a start. I mean, I might run an organisation, but I don't get it right all the time, and I don't want to get it right all the time. I want to be told how I can be better at what I do, even working with them. So I like to create a team atmosphere, an organisation that feel comfortable in being able to communicate at any level, at any time, and feel that their point is valid. Yeah, right. That's important to me. Yeah. And then the other side, I want people that are ambitious, but not everyone needs to be totally ambitious, because companies are full of people that have very different skill sets, very different aspirations, and there's room for all of them. You can't all be.
No, you can't be the same, right?
You can't all be A-type people. If you were, there'd be nobody doing there'd be nobody working. There'd just be fighting there'd be bedlam in the boardroom, right? So.
Yeah. What about, so when you hire a new talent, how do you then attract them or retain this younger talent group? Because I think I've seen that in the news, right? Or you see it on LinkedIn. It's just like there's like a challenge there.
Well, I'll be brutally honest right now. But I look at my current organisation at WPG. This has been 2 years now. In the main, I've actually recruited seasoned, experienced people that I've known for some time, because we're trying to build an immediate team with experience, with history, that have an immediate impact. As we go forward, we need to infill and build from the bottom as well. The retention of young talent is a real skill set, because when you introduce people into a role and then you introduce them into an industry, if you do the job correctly, you get them excited. Yeah. And anyone that gets excited, they quite by nature they look outside the box. They start seeing what's available. And who can blame anybody after 2 or 3 years about taking a tangential route? Now, you can offer them incentives to stay, a promotion, or it could be financial, or a career roadmap that interests them. But you've also got to be prepared. You have to be prepared to let some people follow their dreams. Yeah. People let me follow my dreams, so why should I let others? I've in the past, I've lost people. I really wanted to stay in my organisation for many years to come, but when I've seen them 5 and 10 years later and seen what they've aspired to. I'm immensely proud of them. I feel good about it myself, and they've achieved their goal objective. What more could you want? So it's not just about in answer to your question, how do you retain people? It's not just about the money, and it's not just about the title. There's a lot more to people than that. They need to feel as though they're being understood. They need to feel as though they're part of an organisation and they're adding value, and that's recognised. And I'd like to think I'm quite close with my team, and I communicate at all levels at all time, and realise that they're as important to the organisation, if not more so than I am.
Yeah.
And together we're stronger.
Yeah. No, I like that, because you need to build that foundation, right? So that passion will start to grow.
Sure.
And when that's there, right? That's just it's a good path.
Yeah. I mean, even this weekend, I wrote to my team about the way we are at the moment, and the important thing about that is, I mean, we have regular calls as well. We have a thing called Team Talk, where we all get together at the end of a month, and it's done virtually like this, because it's impractical to do it any other way monthly. You can't get together from 9 countries. But the important thing is, everyone needs to feel they have a say. Everyone needs to feel that there's an audience for them to contribute to and from. So, and never be scared to try something different.
No,
it might not always work, but give it a go.
Yeah. Can you share an example of something where you tried something where you were not sure of the outcome?
Well, Team Talk itself, the organisation, we haven't been together that long. So we designed a logo, we put the message out, we send out an agenda, and then we say, right, okay, everybody turn up at this meeting with an idea on X, Y, Z. You've got 2 minutes to talk about it.
Yeah.
You're not being judged. We just want to hear your opinion, of course. And when you get the whole team together, some are better at it than others.
Yeah.
And you've got people from different countries with different first languages. So everyone's listening in English because that's the predominant language. But it's much harder for someone who comes from Hungary, for instance, to sell an idea passionately in English to an English listening audience. They've got to work far hard, and you've got to recognise that, and you've got to not only recognise it, you've got to applaud it.
Yeah.
Because if someone asked me to deliver a sales message in Hungarian, I'd have a problem.
Yeah, you have to learn it really fast.
So you've got to try these things.
Yeah.
And then the reaction you get from them, some are better than others. You've got to learn from it, adjust it slightly.
Yeah.
But always be prepared to. I'll say this without being. Some people, what I've seen over the years is that some people send out they send out what I call a rallying call, not wanting the answer they're going to hear.
Yeah.
That in their head, there's the answer they want, and then they get the answer that they receive, and they don't know what to do with it. You have to enter these things prepared to hear the things you don't always want to hear, and react accordingly. Because if the message is loud and clear and you don't react, you're not a good leader.
No. Yeah, you have to, I think, back to the skill set as well, you have to be a good listener, right? And be able to take that reflection on it. So, not everybody wants to hear, either if it's bad or if it's, the not so good news.
But the fact that people are willing to talk about it is a hugely positive sign.
Yeah.
I've seen it many times in the past where people have gone quiet, and then you suddenly get the situation where they turn up in your office and say, "I'm sorry, I'm leaving."
Yeah.
And you haven't been able to grab that before, and by the time you get to that stage, it's all too late.
Yeah.
So the fact someone's prepared to put their heart on the table is a very positive sign for your relationship with them and the company.
Yeah. So did you have this meeting? Is that every quarter, or was it every month, as you said?
Every month.
Every month.
Yeah.
Right. That's good.
We try to have in fact, we're trying to arrange a full team meeting in the next sort of 6 weeks, sort of 3 times a year, to get everybody together. Yeah. But in the modern world, you've trying to get big teams people together in one place at one time. It's no
challenge. Yeah. But there's a lot of technology right now, right? You can also record the meeting. You can have the meeting on Zoom or on Teams, right? So it gives
Look at what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
I mean, having this visually rather than on a phone is a far more beneficial experience.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah,
certainly for me, but I'm not sure about you. But it's certainly for me.
No, but I also think with the meetings, right? Even if you have that sequence that it is online, but it's also great to have it in person, the same kind of meeting. So when you have that opportunity to be in the same location, that is even more powerful because that brings back to the next time you have the meetings online.
Sure. Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
The other nice thing is the familiarity. So if this screen was 15 people today,
at
least and the people hadn't met in person ever, at least when they do meet in person in that hotel conference room on a regional meeting in 6 weeks' time, when the people walk in, they recognise them.
Yeah.
That's important.
It is important, but you recognize from the stomach and up, right? Sometimes you get surprised about how people actually look then when you get them in full.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you realise that they're 9 feet tall.
Yeah, and you're like, what?
Yeah, exactly.
No. What about? Do you have other? Because I think we're touching on reflection as well, right? When you look back and saying, how could we have changed and what could you have done better? So do you do other kind of initiative like this kind of reflection within your organization?
That's a very good question, because it's a bit like when you turn up. Look, I haven't had many interviews in my life for me, but it's when if you're asked the question, what are your weaknesses? And you think, and you struggle, and that's probably the biggest weakness of all. You struggle to identify them. So when you ask about reflections and what you could have done better, you have to think. If someone says, "What do you think you've done well?" It's a catalogue. I've done this. But when you think, sometimes I think, for me personally, you want to move things forward probably faster than they need to.
Yeah.
And you don't spend enough time nurturing it and allowing it to mature and then moving on. You're always pushing for the next goal. You're always pushing for the next big thing.
Yeah.
One thing this industry does, it unfortunately, it motivates people like me to do that, because the next big thing is just around the corner and you want to be part of it. But sometimes there is real added value in just taking a step back, looking at where you are, where you were, and where you want to be in 3-5 years' time, and figuring exactly what that process and that roadmap is, rather than just continually traveling at 100 miles an hour at 45 degrees.
To slow down. Slow down before you speed up.
I'll put my hand up to that. That's something I've always done.
If you have to put your finger on one area, and you look for the recent years, right? What lessons has the electronics manufacturing industry? What have they learned? What have the industry learned?
Well, if you look at, I think the industry continues to learn.
Yeah.
And it needs to, because if you look at, for instance, the semiconductor business in the last 50 years, we've gone through a continual sinusoidal curve of supply and demand, boom and bust, which has been led by technology innovations, etc. We've just gone through another one, very, very distinct this time, which the pandemic has influenced.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily call that I don't blame the industry for that. When you think what this industry is driving in terms of the way life is changing because of it, then you get huge take-ups of technology. For instance, I'll go back as far as the early 80s. The IBM PC was introduced in 1982, 83.
Yeah.
And if you looked at surveys and reports 10 years prior, they talked about a computer in every building, not a computer on every desk.
No.
And where are we now? It's only 50 years or 40 or even 40 years. So this industry has been responsible for enormous change, and because of that enormous change, the pressures upon it have been quite extreme. So it's not surprising that the industry has got a lot of lessons to learn, because it's not being allowed to settle at any one moment in time. It's being dragged forward at an incredible pace. So I don't think that will change. In fact, I think we've all realised in the next 10 years, the semiconductor industry is set to double in size where it is today. And when you consider it's taken 45 years to get to where it is now, and only another 10 years to double, you can imagine the pressures that are going to be placed on the semiconductor industry from now until 2030 till 2033.
Yeah.
And more lessons will be learned, and there'll be more strife, and there'll be more challenges. But what an industry to be in.
Yeah, a fun one. Cool. That's exciting. So let's reflect on you a little bit. So, what if you have to give yourself an advice 10 years ago, what will that be?
I think for me, I'm a very motivated person. I love what I do. I don't need anybody to motivate me. I do it myself. But sometimes I think, for me, 10 years ago, I would have said, right, perhaps I should have set myself a 10-year limit for the end stop.
Yeah.
Where am I now? I'm in my early 60s, but I don't feel like I am, and I still feel I've got an awful lot to give to this industry, and I intend to. But perhaps 10 years ago, I should have said, look, make that your end stop, to do it, put everything in place to be there. And when you get there, if you still feel you've got the energy and motivation to carry on, then perhaps. But my thing is, I think I treat every day as a new dawn, and I just enjoy it so much. I can't imagine the idea of not doing it.
Yeah.
So, see, that 10 years ago, I think I might have put at least some markers out as to what I should be thinking about. And as I said earlier on in this conversation, and this is very serious, I don't want to become irrelevant in this industry.
No.
I still feel as though I'm a contributor, and I don't want to be that person that's looked at as if to say, well, that guy used to be something, or he used to contribute, and no longer.
Not anymore.
The day that happens,
I'll let you know. No.
Yeah, thank you, Sannah. I know you would. So that would have been that. But from a personal point of view, outside of business, sometimes probably to have spend more time doing personal things with the family.
Yeah.
Which I wouldn't say I've sacrificed, but certainly the work-life balance has become confused on occasions.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a balance, right? And it's a give and take. I think everybody has experienced that. Okay, well, that was a good advice, to do something a little bit in a different way. If somebody
what I would say to anybody, what I would say to anybody is, whatever you do in life, you've got to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Now, there are many people in walks of life where they can't enjoy it. They've just got to go and earn the money to keep themselves alive, and that's unfortunate. But if you are in the fortunate position of selecting your career and guiding your way forward, wake up in the morning, good start, get on with it, enjoy what you do, add value, add value to other people as well as yourself, and make it work. Because for most of us, we're in a very fortuitous position. We're enjoying what we do. We love getting up in the morning and doing and performing our roles. It's not the same everywhere.
No, it's not. Find that passion and make it into make it into your career, right? And I always see it as well as it's a journey, because you make choices every day, and then that will just give you a more interesting journey of where you end. So
exactly that.
Yeah.
I mean, Sannah, today you're interviewing me, and I'm delighted you are, and I've known you for some time.
Yeah.
Can I ask, as the interviewer rather than the interviewee, what buzz do you get from being the interviewer rather than the interviewee?
Back to that, I want to learn. So the whole reflection and becoming a better leader and becoming a better person. That's why I started this podcast. I started it under the pandemic. So again, it was a way to expand my network, or actually keep my network alive. Because couldn't go anywhere. So that's how it sparked. and to be a better person to communicate. I think if you look at one of the first episodes, I was nervous, right? I was like, oh, what I am doing, and do I want to do this? It pushed me to do something with a little fear, to say, okay, be in front of that camera, right? Be the one that asks the questions. In the beginning, I hated my own voice, right? I think a lot of people are like, oh no, I can't, just my own recorded voice. And now I'm like, oh yeah, that's me, right? It's getting me to that comfort zone. I'm not afraid of the camera anymore. Not that I was in any degree. So I think it helped me to be on that other side. It helped me in so many ways, and it still do. It's a way to grow my leadership role. It's a way to grow who I am. And again, the purpose of the podcast is not about me. I want to help others, right? To get in and saying, yeah, you can listen, right? And there's a lot of different episodes. So again, it gives a rarity of saying, oh, I want to hear, from this person because I've been looking up to this person. Or I want to hear, more detail about this. So that's when I interview, it's also to hear more personal stories, right? So that was my little.
Oh, thanks for that. I'm just interested because it's we're all, we've all got our own thoughts and opinions on how we do and what we do. Yeah, and they're all important. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's my hobby, right? It's my little hobby here. So okay, so if anybody wants to reach out to you, how can they connect with you?
Oh well, I'm very much alive on social media. I've got my own LinkedIn profile and page. In fact, I've got groups as well. But you can find me that way.
Perfect.
I would prefer it that way, obviously, rather than give out my personal details online today. I'm open to people in terms of advice or help always. I've courted advice and help throughout my career, and I'm sure and benefited from it hugely. If I can help anybody else in the same way, I'd love to.
Yeah, awesome. And I'll make sure to put it in the notes for the podcast, and also put it on the specific page on mindinnovation.com. So easy to find you on LinkedIn. So Nigel, thank you so much. I think this was awesome. I always, even though we know each other, I think having this kind of conversation just made, our relationship and friendship even deeper, and I really appreciate it.
Well, vice versa, Sannah. I really appreciate the opportunity and being invited. And if this benefits people in any way, shape, or form, then that in itself is a good reason for doing it. I always enjoy a conversation about a wide aspect of subjects, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you, everybody.
If you like Mind Innovation, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share the show wherever you get your podcast. You can follow Sannah Vinding and Mind Innovation on Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And make sure to check out mindinnovation.com. Stay curious and keep learning. See you next time.